All right. So today we will discuss a few arithmetic and arithmetic logic and load store instructions for RISC-V architecture. Right. In the last class, we have seen RISC-V architecture. We looked at the number of register it has, kind of addressing it can do, in very brief. Okay. So today we'll start with basic instructions, and after two classes, you will get an assignment. So you can try assembly language programming by yourself. We'll use a simulator called Venus Simulator. It's available online. So there will be few assignments, also some practice assignments for your own practice. Okay, so reference are the following. I have taken it largely from Berkeley class 661C, and then I am also using a PPT uh, a PowerPoint presentation by Professor Harris. Uh, he's a professor at Harvey Mudd University, and this is a nice book he's writing right now. It's not done, so he has sent me a few chapters for reviews. So I'm also reviewing the book. So I am using some contents from the PPT which is available online. All right. Okay. So in this class we'll study very basic arithmetic instructions like add, addition, and subtraction. Then we'll also study add immediately, and then we'll study few instructions like load word, store word, load byte, store byte. So these are data transfer instruction like or load store instructions. All right. So let's start. So instruction set. So the way RISC-V architecture is designed is that it has multiple subset or multiple sets of instructions, right? So okay, so now these sets are there for different applications. However, so the instruction set that we are using is quite simple. It's called a RISC-V 32-bit integer instruction set. So it will not have floating point instructions, but we'll also look at some other instruction from other instruction sets, like multiplication, for example, is not part of this instruction set, but part of other instruction set for RISC-V. So we'll look at some of those. Also look at floating point operations. Okay, but for simulation, we'll be using this one. Okay, all right. The question is that what is the difference between assembly language program and machine language program? Okay, there are many differences. We'll look at them little later when we look at machine instructions. But in general, what we can think of assembly language is a human readable representation of computer's native language. Okay, so basically we can write the program in assembly instruction which we can easily understand and uh, you know uh, and think about, right, when we write program. For example, we have add ABC, for example. Then add is something that we know that we are adding to register and then moving it to register A. Now instead of that, when we have machine instructions, then add will be replaced by certain number of bits. So now when we look at bits, then we can't understand what's happening, right? Machine of course can understand, machine can't understand assembly language. Okay, so machine, so that's the reason we convert assembly language instruction to machine language instruction. Okay, and this is done by assembler. So we look at role of assembler, etc., little later. First, now next 4 or maybe 5 lectures will be on assembly language programming. So once we have understanding of these instruction sets or instructions within this set, then we can easily do programming, and that's what you are going to do. Okay, each assembly language instruction specify operation to be performed and operands. This is what we have seen earlier also, right? And same is true for machine instruction, because there is a almost one-to-one mapping between assembly language instruction to machine language instruction. So assembly language instruction or machine language instruction has some operation to be defined and on which is doing the operation, right? So okay, so we have something called opcode. So this is opcode here, and then there are operands. Okay, so now this is opcode, of course. This is destination operand, we say. Okay, and then this is first source operand and this is second source operand. So this is two source operands and then the one destination operand. Okay, in general these three are called operands. Okay, and then we use hash to represent something that we write after the hash is assembly is actually a comment. Okay, and note that we are using only one instruction in a line. All right. Okay, now the question is that where all operands can be. Okay, we know that operands can be, for example, in this case, operands are all in registers. This is one operand which is register, this second operand which is register, and this destination operand which is also register. So operands can be in registers. Okay, it means the register contains the values on which we will operate using opcode. Okay, and then operands can also be in memory. We need to bring data from memory. Okay, so operand can also be in memory. And thirdly, there can be situations wherein we want to do certain operations where we need to use constant. For example, in we have suppose in higher level language instruction like a is equal to b plus 5. Okay, now here the 5 is a constant, and then we can have a simple assembly language instruction where we have constant as an operand. Okay, so we call them immediates. Okay, all right. So we'll look at these instructions in today's class. So let's look at some very basic arithmetic instructions, and we have already seen that there are two very simple instructions like add. So add is adding the contents of x2 and register x3 and moving them to register x1. So basically we are taking the contents of x3 and contents of x3 and adding, and sorry, first look at contents of x2, add to that contents of x3, and the sum of that we are moving to register x1. So x1, x2, x3 are registers. So contents of register x2 are added to contents of register x3 and we move them to contents of register x1. So equivalent of that in C is A is equal to B plus C, where C is mapped to register x3, B is mapped to register x2 and A is mapped to register x1. Okay, so this is how however this is the role of compiler, right? But in general this kind of mapping is done. All right, similarly subtraction. So we have subtract, sub is opcode, then register x3, x4, x5. So its semantics is that contents of x4 is taken and from that we are subtracting the contents of x5 and then we are moving it to register x3. So contents of register x4, from from that we are subtracting contents of x5 and move them to x3, and then this equivalent to d is equal to e and e minus f, where d is obviously mapped to x3, this is a destination, where variable e is mapped to x4 and variable f is mapped to x5. All right, simple. All right, so any doubt about it? Any question?
So for how long can we store like value to any variable? Like for
as
x3, how
as long as you are using it.
like sir, if I have given like six instructions, then like I have given first instruction as add x1, x2, and x3, and
Mm-hmm.
provided x2 and x3 as input. Can I
Mm-hmm.
access x2 and x3 while I am giving like six instructions?
See, what happens is that in your program, when compiler is converting your high level instruction to lower level instruction, it has to also look at, you know, how long it can use it. See, if for example you are doing some, see, number of registers are all limited.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and if you are using next instruction which is using registers, possibly you can use it because there are 32 registers, then so on, right? So at some time or other you may have to use a register, and then registers are not available, then one of the registers will freed up. All right. So that is the role of, actually, when compiler compiles, it has to work in that particular way.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
sir, it randomly free one register, or it do something short of some algorithm or
So
something.
there must be algorithm of freeing it up, and it should be very simple algorithm. Okay. If and then actually the simplest algorithm could be something that is not used for longest period of time. Okay, some of these you may not study this in OS course, but it's essentially similar algorithm that we use in case of uh, how to free memory from RAM, right, or cache. Okay, so normal thing is that something that is not used for longest period, or something that came first and not in use, that can be removed, right? Okay,
Okay, sir.
all right.
Yes.
Okay, so there can be situation where number of variables, etc., that are in use could be more than 32. We'll look at some of those special cases little later. Okay, so now can you observe something here? And from this comes the beauty of RISC architecture. Look at the syntax of add and subtract. Okay, it's exactly the same, right? I mean, opcode will be different, but rest of the thing, both are using three registers, and it means there are three operands and each operand of same size. Okay, because you need 5 bits to code a register. With 32 registers, so each to represent each register, you just need 5 bits. So now both instructions are very similar. Okay, now from this we have design principle one, which is simplicity favors regularity. Okay, so here RISC is very simple architecture, right? So now we can see the instructions are also simple, and hence because of that it's regular or similar. I mean, you can see the both formats of both are the same. This is register 2, this register 1, this is destination register, right? And that's possible because of it's all very simple, right? So it's the same number of operands using two source operand and one destination operands, and easier to encode and decode in hardware, right? Because for whether it's add or subtract, all it needs to do is decoding is very similar, because add and subtract, even opcodes will be different by just maybe 1 bit or few bits, right? And then it will know when we are decoding where is first source operand, where is second source operand, and where is the destination operand, right? So it is very simple for hardware to execute that. All right. Okay, now what happens, so what we have seen that we can do this kind of operation of, that's in C, A is equal to B plus C. What happens if the instruction is more complex? For example, we have instruction like A is equal to B plus C plus D minus C. Okay, now can we now we need to break this into multiple instructions in assembly language. Once we want to execute this in C, C can have any number of uh, operands. I mean, whatever language defines, right? So it can have 10, 20, 30 in one statement, but obviously this has to be broken into simpler assembly language instructions. And for example, here, what we can first, we can write this into, say, add x contents of x1 and x2 and move them to x10. So basically, B and C, x can map to B, and x2 can map to C. Okay, and then we are moving it to a temporary register. Okay, uh, all right. So now what is next thing? Now we need to add B and C addition is done. So we need to add do plus D, right? So we to this contains, which is addition of B plus C, which is in X10, we are adding X3. So that content is added to X3, which is nothing but D, which will contain the value of D, and then move them to X10. Now next instruction, next step is minus C. So we do subtract from X10 the value of X4. X4 is mapped to E. Okay? So it's very simple. Okay. So basically a complex instruction in higher level language, uh, we are splitting into multiple instruction. And note all, all these instruction of similar format, and as a result of that, hardware can be made absolutely efficient, or you know to execute this kind of instruction. All right. From this comes a second principle, design principle, which is make the common case fast. Okay, since instruction is simple or commonly used instruction, look, while higher level language can have a complex instruction, okay, it's resulting into very simple instructions. Okay, and now you can optimize your hardware for faster execution of that, right? For example, hardware to decode and execute instruction can be simple, small, and fast. So everything is very simple, then that can be done at very high speed, right? You can afford to create a hardware which is very efficient and very fast. Okay. And then we have seen that more, if there is a more complex instruction at the top, it can be split into simpler instruction, but they can be executed at fast speed. So, and we can see that RISC-V has a very smaller number of simple instructions. So we can see the number of instructions are just barely minimum to do the task, and but they are extremely simple. Hence, any complex operation at the top must be split into number of simpler instructions at assembly level or machine instruction level, right? All right. Now from so we have seen first case where we are using register as operand, right? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Anyway, let's. Okay. Okay, so second type is where we use constant as an operand or immediate type as an operand. All right. So here the syntax is this opcode, which we put here OPI. I stands for immediate. This instruction will have one operand which is immediate. Then destination, then source and immediate. This is in general the format that we use, right? Immediate is nothing but a constant. Okay, and in general represent the instruction of immediate type. Okay, so this constant size has to be something, because in an instruction we have only 32 bits, and then some fields are for opcode. Okay, and then we have two registers. Okay, I'm just have yeah, so let's assume that these two are for registers. Then some is, and then there is some space left out. Okay, of course there will be something else also. Anyway, so we'll look at the format little later. But this immediate field size, then here that's defined is of 12 bits. Okay. So now the question is that if it's a 12 bits, then we can represent only certain number of constants, right? Now next thing you can ask is that these 12 bits are unsigned or signed. Unsigned means that these are all starting from 0 going up to, say, here in this case will be 2 raised power 12 minus 1. These are unsigned. Okay, or it could be signed, which is 2's complement in negative numbers. Okay, So it will have certain range, certain minus whatever to certain plus whatever. Okay. So what are we using here? It has to very, so once we know this only, then corresponding number will be interpreted correctly, right? So because ultimately is zeros and ones. Okay, now the syntax of this operation will define that if it is I type of operation, say add I, then 12 bits here are representing 2's complement. So this semantics is known right from beginning when this instruction is decoded and executed, right? All right. So we interpret this as sign extended 2's complement. What is sign extension? Did you study sign extension? Anyone?
Or is it like first bit is the sign bit?
Yeah, very right. So basically in 2's complement, the first bit, the MSB, not the first bit, you can say MSB tells you whether it's a negative or positive, right? And you would have seen 2's complement characteristic that you can extend it and the value remains the same. Okay, whatever number of extension you can do, it remains the same, right? So we'll look at that. Okay, all right. Okay, let me just clean this up. Okay, all right. So this is one example. We'll come at sign extension later. Okay. Now this next point is that this immediate that we are going to use can be written in decimal, hexadecimal, or binary. So because this ultimately assembly language instruction is going to get converted into machine level instruction, at that time whatever it is, whatever way you represent it in assembly language will be converted into appropriate form. This defined by machine format, which is 2's complement number. Okay, so we can write add I x3 x4 minus 10 is perfectly fine to write in this way, or instead of minus 10 there can be any other number. You can represent, say, hexadecimal 0x whatever number, okay? So it is your choice. Okay, and this is equivalent to f is equal to g minus 10 in higher level language, right, where g is mapped to x4 and f is mapped to x3. All right, so let's move ahead. Okay, so here is one example. Suppose we have two variables a and b, and a is mapped to register s0 and b is mapped to register s1. Then we have c statement which looks like a is equal to 5 plus b minus 3. Okay, so note that we have here in this statement we have two constants. Okay, and then we have two variables a and b, and these variables are mapped to registers. So we will have, now what are we doing? First thing is that do this operation and put the result in a temporary. Okay, so t1 is a temporary register. Okay, then s1 is of b, so we are doing add immediate s1 with constant 5. Okay, or immediate value of 5. So it means that we have executed this and value of this addition is available in t1. So next instruction would be whatever we are doing here, whatever the result, from that we have to subtract minus 3. So we can do add immediate, and the value that we have got now 5 plus b minus 3. Fine.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you said that we could mention the immediate value in decimal, binary, or hexadecimal.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it, like, for hexadecimal or a decimal, how does it understand that 5 is in decimal? Like for hexadecimal, do
Okay.
we?
So if you are, so it is ultimately whatever you're writing has to be converted by assembler into lower level. So when you say just simple 5, It will take as decimal. So these are defined as a syntax of assembly language, right? If you define say 0x5, you have to write when you say add immediate, say T1 S1 and say hex whatever A, for example. Okay, so then it will interpret, or even one, for example 5, then it will treat this number 0x5 as hexadecimal number, so that this here will tell you whether it's hexadecimal or not. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. And for binary, do we have
Binary,
to?
similarly you have OB, right,
Okay,
and
okay,
the
okay.
number,
Yes, sir.
right? So this, so because it's again human readable form, and then for that everything is well defined. You can't write, suppose you want to use ternary number, so you cannot say that then instead of that I will say 0t or ot or whatever. Okay, so so assembly language instruction will clearly define what all you can represent. So it says that you can represent either binary or hexadecimal or normal decimal number. That's it. So just go by that. And then for all three, there will be very specific way of representing it. All right. Okay. All right. Uh, the question is that why there is no sub I instruction? We could have instead of the sub I S0, T1 and 3. So instead of this instruction, we could have sub I S0, T1, 3. You could have done this, right?
Sir, but then we'll have to reduce one instruction because we have a
So
limit on the
basically,
total.
you are using 2's complement number. So addition, subtraction is done by addition, right? You would have studied that. Why do you use 2's complement number? To represent negative number, right? You could have as well used sign and magnitude. So when you use 2's complement number, is just addition of two number is same as subtraction of second from one, because the basic representation of number takes care of all this, right? All right. So there is a, so this is, if you design an instruction set with this one, then it's redundant, it's useless, right? Okay, anyway you are using 2's complement number here. Okay, all right. Now this is the format, machine instruction format, which we'll look at little later. Okay, but in general I am showing them here so that you can understand the size of different fields. For example, this will have opcode of 7 bits here and plus function field. These two fields are required to interpret what the instruction is. Then source operand register 1, source operator register, sorry, source, this is second source, which is immediate field, and this is destination register. Okay, so operand field is here 12 bits, and this is sign extended. All right, any question?
No, sir.
All right. Okay, so next set of instruction that we'll study now is data transfer instruction, and I'm sure this diagram is extremely familiar with you. When we data transfer in RISC architecture is from register to memory and memory to register. Remember that, right? We because this is a load store kind of architecture. When we are load store architecture, we simplify thing by load. If anything that is to be brought in from memory, it cannot be brought into any other part apart from register. Okay, we cannot bring the value. Suppose we are doing say a is equal to b plus c. Okay, and let's assume this value is here in memory, then we cannot bring it to directly ALU. B and C value cannot be brought from memory to ALU. This kind of instructions are not possible in this, right? So what we do is that whatever the memory location we are reading or writing to, it has to be correspondingly the data has to come from or go to register. Okay, so it means the movement of data from memory to processor is only between memory locations and registers. That's it. Remember this thing, right? So now we have two instructions, a set of instruction for getting the data. There's load is nothing but load the register from memory location, and store is nothing but take the register value and put it into memory. Okay, so it's reading and writing. All right, so now let's look at this way. So now we have 32-bit architecture. So our address space is 2 raised power 32 locations. So many locations, and since we are byte addressable, it means that each location is addressable. So it means that we have 2 raised power 32 bytes. This is a memory size, right? All right. Okay. So and then register size is 32 bits, right? So it means that, okay. So now, however, we may want to bring values from memory which is less than 32. And because addressability is 8, and very often we use 8 bits in computation. For example, our character set that we have, okay, each character is just represented by 8 bits, right? So if you have to manipulate character, then we just need to bring 1 byte, no need to bring all 32 bits, right? Or there are situation we need to bring 16 bits. Remember this thing, we need to bring 8 bits or 16 bits, which is here, or 32 bits. So we should have instruction corresponding to all three situations. Because if you bring 32 bit, then you have to extract from that 16 bit and 8 bits, and this is unnecessary complicated things, right? So instead of that, you should be able to bring 8 bit, 16 bit or 32 bit in case of 32 bit architecture, right? All right, good. So now let's move ahead. All right. So it is byte addressable that we have seen. It means that memory locations each is just one. Each location, each address is just 1 byte because the byte addressable. All right. So word, if you want to bring word, subsequent words, then these words will be 4 bytes away because word is of 32 bits. Okay. So let's come here to this point and then see that how we can address words, right? So this is the first byte, this one is second byte, the third byte, fourth byte, and these all four constitute one word. Okay, and this is second word. So what is the word address here? Word address is the address of the first byte in the word, right? Okay, so here the address first word will start with address 0x0000. Okay, and this is the second one, third byte, fourth byte. However, the second one will start with address 0004. Okay, all right, is it clear? Okay, so now it is little endian, and we have seen in little, and this is the word. The word is 78EFCDAB. Okay, what is LSB here? Least significant byte AB. So AB will come at to the lowest address. Okay, there's 0000. CD will come here and EF will come here and so on. So MSB here. So although when we read this, right, normal, so it's like this, right? MSB is on the leftmost side. While when we store it in little endian format, then the lowest byte will come here. Okay, so that we have studied already. Okay, all right. Any question up to this point?
No, sir.
So remember that why we are discussing this. So if you have to bring a byte from memory, this is a memory, and we have to bring first byte, it means that we are getting the LS, least significant byte. Second byte is second, second byte uh, from rightmost side, and so on, right? So that you have to remember, and there will be examples that we'll see, and knowledge of this is necessary. Okay? All right. So this point we have already discussed. So suppose we have to get 10th word. Each word is of 4 bytes. So basically we have to have address of that will be at 40. Starting that memory is starting from 0. Okay. So if we, it's like this, this is 0000, and this will be the first word will consist of 4 bytes. Second will start at 000 whatever 4. So 10th will start at 000 whatever 40. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. This is fine. Now let's come to syntax of data transfer instruction. Okay. Syntax, note that syntax, when we use word syntax and semantics, syntax means that the format of the instruction, right? The way we are going to write instruction. Okay, it cannot be different. See, when you say that add A, B, C, so this format is very well defined. Then what meaning of A, what is meaning of B, what is meaning of C, right? You cannot write here add AB5. So all this is the something syntax define the grammar, or in our context here the format. Okay, semantics is what it means, like, right? Add ABC means that we add the contents of B and C and move them to A. So there's a semantics. Okay, remember this, when we say syntax is nothing but grammar or format. Semantics is what it means. Okay, all right. Since you have not done compiler course, because it comes very often, syntax and semantics. All right. So now the format of the operation is mem op, whatever be the op, right? Then register. It could be source register or destination register depending on your loading or storing. Okay, in case of loading, this will be destination register. In case of storing, this will be source register and move the data to destination, right? And then we have some base address and then the offset. So now this is base address is in the register. So there is some register we can define. Okay, our compiler can use that is the base register. Okay, and then there will be offset. Once you add offset to that, then you go to particular memory location. Okay, all right. So memop is nothing but opcode. Okay, registers give source or destination, this field, and of course this is base address is registered with pointer to memory. Okay, offset is offset address. We'll see what it means, right? So to calculate the address at which we are going to get the byte or word or half word is calculated based on the value of this BA register, and to that we add the offset. All right. So now let's look at this one. Now first instruction that we consider is load word. It means that we are getting the word, which is 32 bits word, from memory to register. So what we have to specify, memory location we have to specify, and we have to specify register. And LW of course gives is a load instruction. So this gives, this part gives the location in memory or address, which is a note there is a byte address only. We are pointing it to a particular byte. Okay, and it means that from that byte onwards for 4 bytes, whatever the contents, bring them to a register, and register is defined by RD. So let's look at the example here. We are doing load word, okay, T1. So this is where we are getting the value from where memory, and memory, what is the address? Address is represented by or given by contents of S0, which is base register value, some address this will contain, some value it will contain, add to that offset 4, and that becomes the address. Okay, so contents of S0 plus 4 gives the address. Okay, and of course destination register is T1 here. Okay, and any register can be used to hold base address. Any question?
Sir,
Mm-hmm.
load means load to main memory or load to registers?
Okay, remember that when we are loading, loading is reading. When we read, we have to bring it from memory to register. Load is from memory to register. Okay, so when we say this is the memory address, contents of that memory address, this is memory, and it's a word, it means that 4 bytes we have to bring to a register which is defined by RD, given by RD. So here this address, this is the address in memory, whatever be the contents of S0 register, add to that 4, that gives the effective address. Go to the memory, get 4 bytes from there and bring it to register T1. So memory, so when we load, is loading from memory to register, is same as reading. Okay, all right. So let's look at this example. It will become clear once we go through a couple of examples. Okay, so we are loading load word, we are getting a word from this location which is given by contents of register X0, which is base register. It will give base value or base address, and add to that offset 4. Okay, now note that contents of X0 is what? Is a 0 register, right? We have seen, when we have seen number of register, we say there is a special register X0. It just contains is 0. So what we are getting is, we are getting 0 plus 4 is 4. So we are getting the word starting at address 4 to register X5. Simple? Okay. All right. So now let's see, this is the memory. It's a little endian, right? So, and this is first byte, 0th byte, first byte, second byte, third byte, this is a fourth byte. It means that now we have to get a word starting at this address. So we are getting something that we have shown as red. Okay, this one. Okay, and this is a little endian. So what we are getting into register is this is LSB, least significant byte, next least significant byte, and so on. So we are getting F2. This becomes most significant byte, F1 AC07. So this of course hexadecimal. So each will take 4 bits, right, to represent, say 1 1 1 1. This will be 0 0 1 0 and so on. Okay, so this will become 32 bits, and bring this will be contents of register X5. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. So this is another example. Now it will become clear why we need base address, right? So in C code we have an array of type integer. It means that each element of array is of type integer and which has 100 elements. Okay, array of size 100, and then we are doing this operation, G is equal to H plus A3. Okay, in memory, remember, when we have array, it is stored in contiguous locations. Array is always stored in contiguous locations, right? Remember that you would have studied this in, because you know, based on that you can get any element in constant time, right? All right, unlike linked list. So now we have this one. Now we have to see how to implement this, right? Now obviously array A is starting at certain address, okay, and then we are getting third element of that array, okay, and all right, so let's see how it's converted into assembly. Okay, uh, okay, now what we are doing, x13 register is a gives a base address. So whatever be the address here, not necessarily the array will start from 0 0 0 0. Actually it will never start from 0 0 0 0. It will start from some address, let's assume that the address is say 0 1 1 0 1, whatever is 32-bit address, right? So this address is given by base register x13. Now I will ask you question once we complete the course, where, how does it know, you know, where the array starts? But let's not get into it. We'll, let's right now we know that x13 contains the address where the array starts. So it is a base address, and then what we are getting here, third word from that. Okay, now why word, why not because the integer is assuming that coded as 32-bit word. So we are getting third array element. Each array element consists of 4 bytes. Okay, so this 0 1 first, second, third, fourth. Okay, similarly another 4, and then third one. So what will be the address offset? It will be 12. Okay, first starts with 0, second is start with 4, second is start with 8, and third is start with 12, right? So basically okay, sorry, here we are assuming that A3 is it means that A is starting with A0, A1, A2 and A3, right? So A0 will start from here, then 4, then the A1, A2, and then after this it will be A3. So offset will be 12. Okay, and then we put this into, so what we have got now is that this value we have read from memory, and by doing this operation, and put them into a temporary x10, temporary register x10. Okay, next is that add to x10 the value of h. So h is there in some register. Okay, so we assume that's in there in register x12. So add to that temporary value in x12 and then move it to register the that contains g. So it's in x11. So this is how it is done. Where x3 is base register, 12 is offset. Okay, and offset is a constant known at assembly time, because you know compiler will know or assembler will know it. What is the offset? Any question? Is it clear now?
Sir,
Why
that
we need base register?
why 12? Can you please explain again? Like,
Okay, 12, right? Basically, we are reading fourth element of array. Okay, array always starts with 0, right? So 0th element, first element, second element, third element we want to read. And each array element is an integer coded to 32 bits, actually 4 bytes. So A0 will start from here, it will occupy 4 bytes. Okay, so base address, this base address is starting with base address. The base address plus 4 byte is the starting address of second element of array, and this base address plus 8, base address plus 8 is starting address of the third element. Then the base address plus 12 is starting address of the fourth element. So you just get these 4 bytes. So but what the starting address is base address plus 4. Okay, so it means that now the word next 4 bytes starting from this base address we have to get. So this reason this offset base register plus offset of 12 we have to that's the address, and from there we have to get the value. Is it okay now? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Because we are all doing it at, there's no intelligence at this level, right? Basically everything has to be in terms of zeros, one, and address. Remember that all this interpretation below assembly language is just interpretation of zeros and ones. How do you interpret that? That defines the semantics. Okay? All right. The structure of this, load kind of instruction is as is I type of instruction. We'll look at the formats. We have seen that there are number of different types of instructions. 6 formats we have seen. This is I type of instruction, which is opcode and function. These two define what this operation is, whether it's load or store or whatever. Then this is the destination register, where we are getting the data from memory, and okay, this is base register RS1, and this is the immediate field, which is offset. Immediate field gives the offset. This gives offset. This gives base register, and this gives destination register. Now from this you can make out, is a 12 bits, what can be maximum offset? Once you look at this format, you can easily find out what is the maximum offset. Means that what is the maximum amount of array size you can access. All right. Okay. So basically, you have to see is a 2's complement number or 1's or unsigned number. All that we'll see when we study the format, right? So, all right. So this is very similar. This is a store instruction. Okay. When we storing, looking at the contents of a register, get and put them into a memory location, right? And that location is given by base register and offset, very similar to what we have done in case of load. So example is this, of course, is offset and base register. Example is store word SW T6. This is now from here, this is a source address or source register. Take the contents of T6 and move them to a location given by this one, right? When we use 0, okay, or x0 is hard coded as 0. So basically what we are telling here is that write the contents of x6 at the location pointed by 44, address 44. Okay, and obviously 44 will point to a location, then next 4 locations you take 1, 2, 3, 4 and put this value of T6 there. Okay. All right. Is it clear? Okay. So here is another example, very similar. So this is array of size 100, and what we are doing is we are putting, we are adding to register H, register that's containing H, 4th element of array. Okay. So simple thing. So when we convert this into assembly language, it will become now. Of course, we have to, when there's a we have to say that what is the base address. So base address is x13. So it's a memory. So x13 register points to base address, so it means there's some location here from where this array is starting, and then we are getting the A3, which is 4th element, as we have seen earlier. Okay, so basically this is 4 bytes, 4. Now this is a 4th element. So this address, so basically this contents of x3, x13 plus offset, which is 12, will point to the 4th byte here, right? So move this 4th byte into register x10. So we bring it to register x10. Okay. So this, it means that now we have read element A3. Okay. And then what is the next? Add this to x12. This we have seen in the last example. Okay. Now the value of x10, so all this is available to us. We have to store this to A10. Okay. So now this becomes source register. So contents of whatever is we have done, this addition, this available here in this register x10, and move this to location array element A10. So the offset for this will be 40. Okay. So and this is the base register. So go down here with offset 40 and store this value, the value of x10 at this location. All right. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So note
Yes.
that this address at which we are storing, okay, reading or storing, has to be a multiple of 4, because it's all each byte, each word contains 4 bytes and is always aligned by 4. Now we'll look at that concept little later. Okay. Another few minutes. So what we have seen so far is these two instructions: load one and store word. But what we see is that very often we don't use word in program. When we write C program, we use characters and half word, etc. So there should be way to bring half words also, or byte also, right? So we have like instruction like load half word and store half word. Okay. Uh, so when we bring load, it means that we are bringing from memory. So this is 32-bit mem. Let's assume that this is 32 bits in a location, in a word, in a memory, right? So okay, and let's assume these are the 4 bytes here, and we are loading half word. Then we have to know which half word, which 2 bytes, this one or the other one. Okay. All right. Similarly, when we are storing, we need to know where. Okay. So what we do is that all right, on load, so okay, all right, when note that it's all byte addressable, right? So when we say load half from register to register, offset and base address, so offset plus base address will give this address, right? Now take the next 2 bytes. Okay, we got 2 bytes, say byte say A1, A2, for example. So we get 2 bytes, A1 and A2. But now register is of 32 bits, to which we are bringing which one? Where to store them, right? Okay, so what we say, load says that upper 16 bits, we load the lower 16 bit, but upper 16 bits are filled with sign extension. So we fill them here and sign extend. So whatever is the sign here, let's assume is a 1, then fill all this with 1s. Again, because of 2's complement. All right. So I want you to read it by yourself, and maybe we'll start from it in the next class, and then we'll go ahead. But in between, please go through these slide sets again. Okay. And of course, you need to download section manual from website. Berkeley website, if you go, you'll get everything, and then read it by yourself, because it's not possible to cover all instructions. Okay. So I'll skip very similar instructions. Okay, we'll not go to each and everything, and then I will request you to go through it by yourself, because you'll have to do programming also in the exam. We'll ask questions based on these. Okay, so read by yourself how half word is loaded and stored. And next class we'll start with how bytes are loaded and stored. All right. Okay. Any question?
No, sir.
All right. Okay. Thank you.